All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we're going to talk about the Eagles' offense. So I know I touched upon their defense recently, talked about Brandon Graham and what he had to say about the defense. Now we're going to talk about the Eagles' offense. So just kind of Kellen Moore's impact on the Eagles' offense. We'll talk about Jalen Hurts now and what he had to say about the offense. So let's get into it. So he said, this is what Jalen Hurts said recently. He said, "You get to a point where you feel I'm going to be more comfortable with this. I like this. That time comes when you can rep it later on. But right now, it's been a lot of new inventory in the majority of it. Probably 95% of it being new, and so it's just been that process, and it's been a fun process because you get to see what works for other people. I think the goal coming in was to learn Kellen's offense and to master it, and I think that's been a process. And by the end of it, I want it to be mine and have it in my own way." And he also said, "The X's and O's, the lines on the paper, they very well may be what they are supposed to be, but how I coach." Oh, now I think this is what Sirianni. Okay, so this is about Sirianni now. Maybe in what they're supposed to be, but how I coach and how I detail these routes, how I coach the quarterback, what I want his timing to be, where I want him looking, where I want his eyes. Are receivers reading routes or are they not reading routes? Are these alerts on this? Are there checks and adjustments built in on this, or is this something the quarterback has to do? That's what makes a system a system. So, I think the Eagles are going to be really good this year. Unfortunately, as a Giant fan, I think they're going to be back to how they were when they were 10-1, and the previous year when they went to the Super Bowl. Now, do I think the Eagles are going to go to the Super Bowl? Well, I think they got a great shot to, but that's way down the line. But yeah, I think they're going to be an improved team. They made a lot of moves this offseason. They did take Saquon Barkley from the Giants, which, Nick, if you're still here, for me it did sting a little bit. But I think it probably affected some other Giant fans. I think Nick more so than me, just because I've kind of been checked out on the Giants for a while because of just how things have gone recently. And yeah, so you got Saquon Barkley. They made a lot of moves on defense. You got two new coordinators in Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio. Yeah, I think they should be better. And, with the talent they already have there, you got Jalen Hurts, you got that offensive line without Jason Kelsey, but it should still be good. You got A.J. Brown on a new deal, Devontae Smith on a new deal, Dallas Goedert, who's a good tight end. So, yeah, I think they'll feel the loss a little bit of Jason Kelsey and Fletcher Cox on both sides of the ball. But I think this team, with the talent they have, they should be good. And I wanted to look at Kellen Moore's profile and just kind of read off some numbers from when he was the offensive coordinator for the Cowboys. I think it also has from when he was with the Chargers as well last year. But yeah, he was with the Chargers recently. But yeah, it does talk about how, he was the offensive coordinator, and Keenan Allen had, arguably his best year in the NFL. He ranked 6th in the NFL with 108 receptions for 1,243 receiving yards. And then Justin Herbert had the 6th best touchdown to interception ratio, 2.9, or 2 to 9, and 9th most passing touchdowns with 20, although you want to see that up. You don't want to. But touchdowns were low this year. Or last year. Last year was the year where a quarterback shouldn't have won MVP. Because we heard Dak and then Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts, but it should have been either Christian McCaffrey or Tyreek Hill that should have won MVP. But I get it; it's a quarterback award. But yeah, so those are some numbers with the Chargers. Now, with the Cowboys, he was with them from 2018 to 2022. Also did play quarterback a little bit. Was a southpaw, lefty. So we respect those because I am a fellow lefty as well. He orchestrated a unit that ranked 2nd in the NFL in total offense, 391 yards per game, scoring offense, 27.7 points per game, and touchdowns. 3rd in first downs per game, 22.5. 4th in passing offense, 264.4 yards per game, and 3rd down conversion rate, 44.1%. And the seventh rushing offense, 126.6 yards per game. and that was with Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. And now you got Saquon Barkley. So Philly's rushing attack should be good. And Saquon Barkley now being on a team that has an offensive line that can actually block for him, yeah, that should scare some people. It's going to scare me when the Eagles come to MetLife. But anyways, so yeah, I mean he was with the Cowboys, and Dak ranked among the NFL's top passers down the stretch, 20 passing touchdowns from Week 10 until the end of the regular season. Because actually, yeah, it brings up the injury that Dak suffered earlier in the year, because he did miss a couple games, and Cooper Rush had to start. Forgot about that. I mean, CeeDee Lamb caught 107 passes for 1,359 yards and 9 touchdowns. And Tony Pollard set career highs in rushing yards. In 2021, Moore's offense led the league in total yards per game, 407, and points per game, 31.2, while tying for second in passing yards per game, 282.4. So, yeah, he has coached some good offenses. And I think also you could look at it as, well, look at the talent. And the Eagles have a lot of talent on offense as well. And I think that, they should be better. They should be. Well, the other thing, too, is, Jalen Hurts last year did kind of regress. He was turning the ball over more. We'll see how it is now in 2024. How many times am I going to say it? They got a lot of talent. They should be better. I think Kellen Moore is a decent offensive coordinator, right? Is that fair to say? Look at what he was able to do with the Cowboys. Their offense was pretty good. It still is good. But again, you could probably also nitpick and be like, "Wow, look at the teams that they did it against," because the Cowboys do beat up on bad teams, and then against the good teams they do struggle. But yeah, and then last year, I know the Chargers season kind of fell apart, but yeah, Keenan Allen had a good year, probably his best season, like I said, arguably. And if Justin Herbert doesn't get hurt, then he probably gets close to 30 touchdowns. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes. But, it's going to be like a collaborative effort with Nick Sirianni and Kellen Moore. Yeah, and I think for Sirianni, yeah, you better hope this team's good, because, there were some people calling for your job last year. So you better hope that this team bounces back, which they will. I think. I'm not going to be negative on the Eagles. Now, if they don't perform up to expectations, am I going to be distraught over it? No, I'm not. But it would definitely be surprising, because you got the offense, the defense should be better. I had this team winning 12, 13 games. So that's a division title right there. And you should be battling it out with, the top teams for the 1 seed. That's what I expect. So, but that's my thoughts on the Eagles. Let me know what you guys think. How do you see the Eagles offense doing in 2024? And how do you feel about the Kellen Moore hire? Do you think that was a good hire for them, what's the consensus? I think compared to what they had last year, it was a good move. So, now we are going to take our final break of the show, and then when we come back, we'll talk about the Raiders. We'll talk about their backfield. With now Josh Jacobs leaving in free agency, we'll talk about it and what the expectations are for the Raiders running game in 2024. So for one final time today, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.